We're back once again at chapter 18, verse 4 of the book of 1 Kings. For it was so when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave and fed them with bread and water. And Ahab said unto Obadiah, Go into your land unto all fountains of water and unto all brooks. Peradventure we may find grass to save the horses and mules alive, that we lose not all the beasts. Notes. Well, obviously the situation had become very, very desperate. Verse 6. So they divided the land between them to pass throughout it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And as Obadiah went in the way, behold, Elijah met him. And he knew him, and fell on his face, and said, Are you that my lord Elijah? And he answered him, I am. Go tell your lord, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, What have I sinned that you would deliver me, your servant, into the hand of Ahab to kill me? As the Lord your God lives, there is no nation or kingdom whither my Lord has not sent to seek you. And when they said, He is not there, he took an oath of the kingdom and nation that they found you not. Notes. Now, why was Ahab this desperate to find Elijah? Well, the answer is very simple. It was Elijah who had stopped the rain, and it was Elijah alone who could bring back the rain. James 5:17 through 18. Continuing at verse 11, And now you say, Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And it shall come to pass, as soon as I am gone from you, that the Spirit of the Lord shall carry you whither I know not. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find you, he shall kill me. But I, your servant, fear the Lord from my youth. Was it not told my Lord that I did what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of the Lord? How I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water? Notes. Now you have to keep in mind that there was a drought, so this was a considerable undertaking, and no doubt a very, very bad hardship. Verse 14, And now you say, Go tell your Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he shall kill me. And Elijah said, As the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself unto him today. Notes. Well, verse 1, because the Lord had told him to do so. Verse 16, So Obadiah went to meet Ahab, and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, Are you he who troubles Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house, and that you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and you have followed Balaam. Notes. In other words, this was the cause of all of Israel's problems. Remember that doctrine of Balaam? It's just basically a false teaching. That prophet was basically greed-stricken. Verse 19, Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. Notes. These were two different sets of false prophets, totaling about 850. And 400 of them were actually supported directly by Jezebel. Verse 20. So Ahab sent all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. Notes. Now, obviously this probably took some time. It was probably another major undertaking, if you will, but still it happened. Verse 21. And Elijah came unto all the people, and said, How long halt you between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Notes. The object of Elijah here was to actually prove that Jehovah, or Yahweh, was the true God, and not this Baal, this statue. Okay? Verse 22. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only remain, a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Notes. He's not saying that he's the only prophet of the Lord in Israel, but the only one present that day on Mount Carmel. and it was one man against 450 at least. And, well, you might get the impression he might have stood out just a tiny bit, maybe a bit conspicuous. 1 versus 450 or more. Anyways, verse 23. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on wood, and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God who answers by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken. Notes. If you look back in history, Baal was supposedly to be the god of the sun and lord of the elements and forces of nature. Well, Jehovah as well identified himself with this particular token as well. Obviously, he's the God of all nature. Verse 25. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, Choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any answer. And then they leaped upon the altar which was made. Notes. Well, there was no answer, and it was actually to be expected, and let it be amply heard. Of all the religious superstitions in the world presently, there is no answer from that source. As it was then, and so it is now. If all you have is religion, you're just wasting time. Verse 27. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is on a journey, or perhaps he sleeps and must be awakened. Notes. In other words, Elijah is mocking them and jeering them, and seems to be having a good old time doing it. Verse 28. And they cried aloud, and they cut themselves after the manner with knives and lancets, till their blood gushed out from them. And it came to pass, when midday was past, and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, about 3 p.m., that there was neither voice, nor any answer, nor any who regarded. Notes. Their petitions went completely unanswered. Nothing there. Verse 30. And Elijah said unto the people, Come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. Notes. The altar, you have to remember, was a type of the coming cross and what Jesus would do there. And as is obvious, Israel no longer believed in the altar of Jehovah, and above all what it represented, which namely is the cross. Sadly, Elijah repaired the altar which had once been used, but had fallen into such poor shape. The church presently desperately needs to repair the altar of the Lord that is actually broken down. In other words, it needs to desperately reestablish its faith in Christ and what he did at the cross. Verse 31. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be your name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. And he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. Verse 33, And he put the wood in order, and cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, Fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And we will have to pick up in chapter 18, verse 34, of the book of 1 Kings. Thank you, and God bless.